Welcome back, epic seekers. Today, we are unraveling one of the most heartfelt and intense chapters of the Ramayana. We journey to Kishkindha, the land of the Vanas, where loyalty and betrayal collide, and a divine friendship alters the course of destiny. This is the story of Shri Ram and Sugriva, a bond forged in fire, tested by doubt, and sealed with a fateful arrow. Before Hanuman leaped into legend, there was Sugriva and his fearsome brother, Vali, whose rivalry shook the very heart of Kishkindha. But how did Shri Ram, the embodiment of Dharma, get involved in this family feud? And why did he take Vali's life? Settle in as we unravel this epic tale from the Valmiki Ramayana and explore the bonds and battles that shaped a fateful destiny. It all started on Rishyamuka mountain, where Sugriva had taken refuge, living in constant fear of his mighty brother, Vali. Ever faithful, Hanuman led Shri Ram and Lakshman, two wandering princes in search of Devi Sita, to meet him. Upon hearing of their arrival, Sugriva cautiously descended from his hiding place. As he approached, his heart stirred with hope. Before him stood Shri Ram, his presence radiant with quiet strength, and beside him, Lakshman, ever steadfast and watchful. With a mix of reverence and longing, Sugriva extended his hand in friendship. Shri Ram, recognizing the sincerity in his eyes, responded with a warm smile and clasped it firmly. In that moment, as they embraced, an unspoken understanding passed between them, a bond destined to shape the course of their fates. From that day onward, they were bound by an oath of unwavering loyalty. Sugriva's heart swelled with newfound trust, knowing that their joys and sorrows, triumphs and hardships, would now be shared as one. Sugriva, broken and displaced, opened his heart, tormented by fear and stripped of all he once held dear. With a voice trembling with both grief and resolve, he recounted the source of his misery, his own brother, Vali. After their father, Riksharaj, passed away, Vali, the eldest son, was crowned king of Kishkindha. Sugriva, loyal and devoted, served him faithfully, their bond unbroken by power or pride. But that harmony was not destined to last. One day, a demon named Mayavi arrived at Kishkindha's gates, his thundering challenge shattering the peace. Enraged by the audacity of the intruder, Vali sprang forward to confront him, his warrior's pride unwilling to ignore such defiance. Sugriva, bound by loyalty and duty, followed close behind, determined to stand beside his brother. Sensing danger at the sight of both brothers, Mayavi turned and fled into a deep, shadowed cave. As Vali prepared to pursue him, Sugriva offered to accompany him, but Vali refused and ordered him to stand guard at the entrance. Days turned into weeks, then months, until a full year had passed. Sugriva remained at his post, his heart weighed down by dread. Then, one day, a stream of blood gushed from the cave, followed by a final, harrowing roar. The silence that followed was deafening. Fear gripped Sugriva. Convinced that Vali had been slain and dreading the demon's escape, he rolled a massive boulder over the entrance, sealing it shut. With a heavy heart, he returned to Kishkindha. The Vanas, mourning their fallen king, crowned Sugriva as his successor. But Vali was not dead. After slaying Mayavi, he fought his way out, forcing the boulder aside with sheer strength. When he returned to Kishkindha and found Sugriva seated on the throne, his grief turned to blind fury. Convinced that his brother had betrayed him and trapped him inside to seize power, he was consumed by rage. In his wrath, he imprisoned Sugriva's ministers, suspecting them of being accomplices in what he saw as a treacherous plot. Though Sugriva could have retaliated, the bond of brotherhood held him back. Out of respect and loyalty, he humbled himself before Vali, placing the crown at his feet and explaining the entire incident, hoping to calm his anger. But Vali refused to listen. Blinded by fury, he rejected all justifications. The love that had once united the brothers had turned into unrelenting hatred. And in his final act of cruelty, Vali did not stop at casting Sugriva out. He took his wife, Ruma, as his own, leaving Sugriva stripped of everything he held dear. This betrayal and injustice left Sugriva with no choice but to flee, seeking shelter on Rishyamuka mountain, his only safe haven, as Vali was bound by a curse that prevented him from setting foot there. Yet, even in this remote refuge, Sugriva lived in constant fear of his brother's wrath. As he narrated his plight to Shri Ram, the pain of his suffering was evident. He spoke of his unjust expulsion, the loss of his wife, and the despair that had consumed him. Desperate to reclaim his honor and Ruma, he sought Shri Ram's aid. In return, he vowed to rally the Vanar army to help Shri Ram in his quest to rescue Devi Sita. Moved by Sugriva's anguish and recognizing the injustice done to him, Shri Ram's heart was stirred by the depth of the Vanar prince's suffering. As the very embodiment of Dharma, he saw not just a plea for help but a righteous cause that demanded justice. With unwavering resolve, Shri Ram assured Sugriva that his days of suffering would soon end. Vali, who had misused his power and violated the sacred principles of justice, would face the consequences of his actions. Shri Ram vowed to put an end to his tyranny and restore Sugriva to his rightful kingdom, ensuring that righteousness prevailed. The group finally arrived at Kishkindha, carefully positioning themselves within the dense foliage to remain unseen. Shri Ram, Lakshman, and Hanuman remained watchful, their eyes fixed on Sugriva as he stepped forward, his chest rising and falling with anticipation. Summoning all his strength, he let out a mighty roar, his challenge rolling through the kingdom like distant thunder. Vali heard the call, a thunderous roar that echoed through the kingdom, a challenge etched into the very air. Rage ignited within him like a storm, and without hesitation, he charged forward. As he confronted Sugriva, the battle erupted in an instant. Their roars filled the air as the brothers clashed with unrelenting force, their blows landing like thunderbolts. Vali, unmatched in strength, struck with ferocity, driving Sugriva back blow after blow. From his vantage point, Shri Ram stood ready, bow drawn, arrow poised to strike. Yet as the battle raged on, hesitation clouded his mind. The brothers were identical in form, like the celestial Ashwini Kumars, their movements, their features, even their battle cries merging into one. How could he release his arrow without risking Sugriva's life? The uncertainty was too great, and he held back, unwilling to take the shot. Sugriva, battered and bleeding, fought desperately to hold his ground, but Vali's relentless assault overpowered him. His strength waned, his vision blurred, and realizing he could not endure any longer, he broke free, retreating toward the forest, the one place where Vali could not pursue him. Bound by an ancient curse, Vali halted at the edge, his frustration boiling over. With a voice laced with scorn, he hurled insults at Sugriva, mocking his retreat before turning back toward his residence. Breathless, bruised, and seething with frustration, Sugriva faced Shri Ram. The promise had been made, Vali was to fall, yet Shri Ram had not acted. His eyes burned with disbelief as he awaited an explanation. Shri Ram, his voice steady yet filled with regret, spoke of his hesitation. The resemblance between the brothers had made it impossible to strike without certainty. One wrong move could have led to a grave mistake. To ensure this did not happen again, he advised Sugriva to wear a clear mark of identification in the next battle. Understanding the need for distinction, Shri Ram instructed Lakshman to take a creeper, weave it into a garland, and drape it around Sugriva's neck, a clear marker that would leave no doubt. This simple yet crucial sign would ensure there was no confusion in the heat of battle. The next time they faced Vali, there would be no hesitation and Shri Ram's arrow would not miss its mark. Now, with renewed resolve, they returned to Kishkindha's forest, retracing their steps to the very battleground they had left behind. As Shri Ram, Lakshman, and Hanuman concealed themselves behind the dense trees of Kishkindha's forest, Sugriva stepped forward once more. His chest swelled with determination as he let out a deafening roar, a challenge that thundered through the kingdom. The sound reached Vali, who sat deep within his inner chambers. Fury ignited within him at the audacity of his younger brother. Without a moment's hesitation, he prepared to storm out, his anger surging like an unbridled tempest. But just then, his wife, Tara, stepped in his path, her eyes filled with worry. She pleaded with him to reconsider. The sudden resurgence of Sugriva's confidence was not ordinary, it spoke of unseen forces at play. Reports from spies confirmed her fears. Sugriva was no longer alone. The mighty princes of Ayodhya, Shri Ram and Lakshman, stood with him. Shri Ram, a warrior of unparalleled skill, wielded a bow that could bring even the strongest to their knees. Tara urged Vali to think rationally, to postpone the battle and seek peace instead. But Vali's pride would not allow it. Dismissing her warnings, he assured her that Shri Ram was a man of truth and would never strike him without reason. Sugriva was his enemy, not Shri Ram. And so, blinded by rage and the arrogance of his own strength, Vali stormed out, his roars shaking the very air. As soon as he stepped outside, he saw Sugriva standing ready. Without a word, Vali lunged at him, and the battle reignited. The two brothers clashed with unrelenting ferocity, blows landed like thunderbolts, and growls of pain and fury echoed across the land. Vali, fueled by his superior strength, struck Sugriva again and again, forcing him backward. Sugriva, though determined, struggled under the sheer force of his brother's attack. From his hidden vantage point, Shri Ram watched intently. This time, there was no room for doubt. The garland around Sugriva's neck stood as a clear marker. Shri Ram lifted his bow, his fingers steady as he drew the arrow. It gleamed like a serpent's fang, infused with divine energy. The moment had come. With an unwavering gaze, he released the arrow. It cut through the air with blinding speed, a streak of death bound for its mark. The weapon struck Vali's chest with the force of a crashing storm, piercing through him with a sound like a thunderclap. His strength failed him, and with a final, shuddering breath, the mighty Vanar King collapsed to the earth. The battle was over. Vali, once invincible, now lay motionless, struck down by the very destiny he had ignored. Vali lay on the battlefield, covered in blood, groaning in pain, yet his glory and valor remained undiminished. The golden garland, a divine gift from Indra, still adorned his body, enhancing his majestic presence even in his final moments. As Shri Ram and Lakshman approached, Vali, despite his wounds, expressed his deep anguish. He reflected on how he had trusted Shri Ram's righteousness and never expected to be struck in such a manner. The warnings of his wife, Tara, echoed in his mind, making him question the justice behind his downfall. He had always believed in Shri Ram's truthfulness and adherence to Dharma, yet he now felt betrayed. His thoughts wandered to the perception of the world, where Shri Ram was praised for his bravery, truthfulness, and righteousness. But here, hidden in secrecy, he had struck down an opponent who had no enmity with him. Despite his pain, Vali did not lament his death itself, but the manner in which it had come upon him. He pondered over what might have been if he had been given the chance to aid in Shri Ram's mission. With his might, he could have retrieved Devi Sita in a single day, sparing everyone the struggle of war. However, what troubled him most was the feeling of injustice, the belief that had Shri Ram fought him directly, the outcome would have been different. He struggled to comprehend the justification behind this act. Shri Ram, unwavering in his understanding of Dharma, stood firm as he addressed Vali's accusations. He saw through the misconceptions and quickly dispelled them. Vali, for all his strength, lacked a true understanding of dharma and social conduct. Shri Ram explained his authority. Though he was in exile, he acted on behalf of his brother Bharat, the ruler of the earth, entrusted with upholding dharma and eradicating unrighteousness wherever it took root. He turned to the heart of his reasoning, laying out the principles of Sanatan Dharma. It was his duty to uphold righteousness and restore balance. He then revealed what Vali had failed to see: the land, with its towering mountains, dense forests, and sprawling jungles, was under the rule of the Ikshvaku dynasty. The kings of this sacred lineage bore the responsibility of maintaining order, protecting the innocent, and delivering justice to the wicked. Every being that roamed these lands, whether human, bird, or beast, lived under their governance. Mercy was theirs to grant, but so too was punishment when the balance of dharma was disturbed. He pointed out that Vali had violated the very tenets of morality by seizing his younger brother Sugriva's wife, Ruma, treating her as his own, an act akin to violating a daughter-in-law. According to Sanatan Dharma, an elder brother, father, or guru must be regarded with the same respect, just as a younger brother, son, or disciple must be treated with love and care. All women should be honored as goddesses, yet Vali had transgressed these principles, giving in to lust and depriving his brother of both his wife and his rightful kingdom, driven by unchecked senses. By allowing his desires to dictate his actions, Vali had strayed from the path of dharma, and such an offense could not be ignored. If a man goes to his daughter, sister, or younger brother's wife with lustful intentions, killing him is considered the appropriate punishment for him. Shri Ram further justified his actions by emphasizing that kings and warriors must uphold righteousness. A warrior remains blameless in eliminating threats, regardless of whether the adversary fights back or not. If a king neglects to punish, he must also bear the sins committed by others. His fault diminishes only when he takes responsibility and makes amends. Hearing this, Vali's arrogance dissolved, and he realized the weight of his own misdeeds. He acknowledged that, blinded by pride, he had committed numerous sins, failing to recognize the difference between right and wrong. Regret filled his heart for having spoken harshly to Shri Ram without understanding the greater truth. His thoughts then turned to his son, Angad. He wished for Angad to be under the protection of Shri Ram and entrusted his care to the noble prince. His last request was that Shri Ram guide Angad with affection, as he was so dear to him, and to extend warmth to Sugriva despite their past. Shri Ram, moved by Vali's humility, solemnly promised to honor these requests. As news of Vali's fatal injury spread, Tara, overwhelmed with grief, rushed with Angad by her side. However, as they neared the battlefield, fear gripped the Vanars who had been guarding the prince. Seeing Shri Ram, they panicked and fled, warning Tara that remaining there was unsafe. They urged her to return and crown Angad as the new king before Sugriva and his allies took control of Kishkindha. But Tara, inconsolable, had no desire for a kingdom without her husband. To her, life itself had lost its meaning. With sorrow weighing heavily upon her, she reached the battlefield, her cries piercing the air as she fell to the ground beside Vali. The sight of her husband, his body soaked in blood, broke her completely, and all the wives of Vali mourned alongside her. Overcome with grief, she resolved to fast unto death, believing that life without him was unbearable. Hanuman, seeing her distress, tried to console her. He urged her to set aside sorrow and focus on the future, reminding her that she would find solace in seeing Angad ascend the throne. But Tara, lost in despair, refused to listen. At that moment, she made up her mind to follow Vali in death, to end her life beside him. Meanwhile, Vali, in his final moments, turned to Sugriva with his fading strength. Despite the past enmity between them, he acknowledged his wrongs, regretting the hostility that had defined their relationship. With his last breath, he sought forgiveness and entrusted Angad's well-being to Sugriva, urging him to raise the young prince as his own son. As a final gesture, he offered Sugriva his golden garland, which bore the blessings of goddess Lakshmi, instructing him to wear it before his life faded away, lest its divine power be lost. Turning to Angad, Vali imparted his last words of wisdom. He urged his son to carry out his duties with diligence and fairness, cautioning him against excessive attachment or hatred, as such emotions hinder growth. He advised Angad to always remember his teachings and serve Sugriva with loyalty. With these parting words, Vali's life slipped away. As his body fell still, Tara's sorrow deepened, her cries of grief filling the air. After Vali's fall, Sugriva stood over his brother's body, the weight of victory turning bitter in his heart. He had regained his kingdom and wife, all because of Shri Ram's arrow, but any joy was drowned in an overwhelming flood of guilt. Turning to Shri Ram, he confessed that the sorrow of causing Vali's death far outweighed the allure of the throne. He had sought this end out of desperation, yet now felt crushed by the burden of fratricide. His voice thick with remorse, he declared that he would rather walk into the fire than live with this pain. Though he had been crowned king, he felt no triumph, only regret. Determined to make amends, he decided to pledge his Vanar army to Shri Ram for Devi Sita's search while withdrawing to mourn, a ruler in title but broken in spirit. And so, Vali, once the invincible ruler of Kishkindha, meets his end, not in triumph, but in a blend of valor, regret, and reconciliation. It is a moment that leaves us reflecting on justice, duty, and the heavy cost of choices. This chapter of Shri Ram, Sugriva, and Vali isn't just an epic of warriors, it is a mirror to our own lives, reflecting the intricate dance of duty, morality, and consequence. Shri Ram's hidden arrow teaches us that righteousness isn't always a straight path. Sometimes, it bends through shadows to serve a greater good, balancing promises with justice. Vali's fate reminds us that unchecked power and pride can blind us to our own wrongs, leading to ruin even when we stand tallest. And Sugriva's regret? It is a quiet warning: victory won at the cost of love or kinship can hollow out the soul, leaving us as kings of ashes rather than of joy. At its heart, this tale whispers a timeless truth. True strength lies not in might alone, but in understanding the weight of our actions, in seeking forgiveness when we falter, and in holding fast to the bonds that define us. So, as we step away from Kishkindha, let us ask ourselves, how do we wield our own power? And what do we sacrifice in the name of what is right? Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Vibes of Divinity, for more enlightening moments. Stay inspired.